biosafety level 4, BSL4, is the highest level of biosafety precautions and is appropriate for work with agents that could easily be aerosol transmitted within the laboratory and cause severe to fatal disease in humans for which there is no available vaccines or treatments. And it's overseen by the World Health Organization, which would have to know what basically goes on there. America's got loads of these labs. Now, according to Francis Boyle is professor of international law at the University of Illinois. He was the man who drafted in 1989 the U.S. Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorist Act, which passed by both sides of the House unanimously. He's come out and said a number of things. First of all, that these biosafety level 4 labs are only in existence to develop bioweapons. They're not there for any level of medical research. They're only there to develop bioweapons. His view is, by accident or design, that this virus came out of that Wuhan laboratory. And he's been talking about the fact that he's read papers on this virus that have looked into it. And he says it has, according to these papers, something called gain of function. And gain of function means that it's been genetically engineered to be far more dangerous than it would otherwise be. So again, that's a massive coincidence that one biosafety level 4 lab in China is in Wuhan, where this thing was supposed to have started, and absolutely did not start in the wet market that is now widely accepted, because so many of the early people that got the virus had no connection to that wet market in Wuhan at all. So this is where we're at, and all these things, Bill, need to be put in the mix before we and the individual we come to conclusions about what's going on here.
The reaction part of your problem, reaction, solution, the reaction right now is, I've never seen reaction like it in terms of the public, in terms of the media profile. SARS, we didn't have this kind of mass panic, and MERS, we didn't have this kind of mass panic. It's working rather well, the reaction part for this, given there's a mass level of hysteria versus the numbers of people who are actually dying.
Yeah, I mean, in one year, something like tens and tens of thousands of Americans died in the flu season in America. Tens and tens of thousands, and thousands and thousands, well beyond anything we've seen so far from the coronavirus, die from the flu in America alone every winter. Where this coronavirus will go, of course, we don't know. But what you've just described suggests to me that in terms of problem, reaction, solution, this could at least be a step up towards the real deal. Because you rightly point out, we've had the SARS, we've had the Ebola, etc., and it was like, panic, 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 and then it kind of drifted away. Yeah. This is different. The ante's been upped, and I think it, and that's another area too, which is again should go into the equation, is that what I've been pointing out, particularly since 2008 and the financial crash, is that this cabal, what I call the global cult, that operates in every country above governments and manipulates governments, they are planning, as I've been saying since 2008, a massive economic crash, because what they want, problem, reaction, solution, is a completely new economic order and economic system, at not least one that would be completely globally cashless. And they're even using the coronavirus now, the World Health Organization, which is owned by this cult, to demonize money, saying, don't use cash because it could pass on the virus. I was saying in the early 1990s that in the books that, they're going for the cashless society, which is a control system. At the moment, if you go into a store and you hand over cash, or hand over a credit card, let's say that, and the computer won't accept your credit card, well, you can still pay cash. But when there is no cash and there's only digital money, when the computer says no, how are you going to purchase? There's no way you can. This is what it's all about: control. So what we're seeing now is the effect on the economic situation in the world, not least because the major corporations around the world, not least in America, have spent decades handing all their production, major production, to China. So if China gets in trouble in terms of producing those goods, then there is a supply chain problem. Yeah. And how many people would believe the stupidity? It's not actually stupidity at the level of this cult. It's calculated design. 80% of American antibiotics come from China. Something like 90% of ingredients for American drugs come from China.
Wow.
The power that's been given to China, which is supposed to be an enemy of the West, is absolutely extraordinary. And you have, of course, the climate change hoax, which is also promoted by the World Economic Forum 1%. And you have people like Prince Charles going along to this year's fest, along with yet again Greta Thunberg, and calling for a complete new economic order to save the world from climate change. And so you see these constant themes of we must have a new economic order. This new economic order is what I've been warning about for the best part of 30 years. And coronavirus and the human-caused climate change hoax, in which they're demonizing the gas of life, carbon dioxide, without which we'd all be dead, actually have incredibly similar solutions to their different problems.
The World Health Organization are supposed to be there to let us know what's going on in the world and take care of public health, although I believe that the man whose name is unpronounceable, apart from the Tedros bit, has an interesting background, who's the Director General.
Yeah, the World Health Organization, I was writing about the background to this way back in the 1990s. The World Health Organization, like the World Trade Organization, are bodies that this cult created. I name in the books the people that created them, to focus global power over different areas of human life, health and trade in these cases, under one roof. And so you've got the World Health Organization, which is supposed to be the arbiter of health policy in the world, but it's incredibly corrupt. I was watching an item on an American TV show, one of the few American TV journalists left, called Tucker Carlson, who was exposing the staggering levels of corruption of the World Health Organization. And it's currently headed by, you rightly say, a guy called Tedros, who was health minister in Ethiopia and a Politburo member of the Marxist regime that's been running the country for a long time. And he was exposed in Ethiopia as health minister for covering up cholera epidemics. Just the guy you want as head as the